My father looked me in the eyes and told me I was dead to him. Not because I committed a crime, not because I hurt someone, but because I refused to believe a lie. A woman I barely knew claimed I was the father of her unborn child. My parents believed her over me. They cut me out of their lives without proof, without questions, without a second thought. But what broke me wasn't the accusation itself. It was watching my own mother pack up my childhood photos and mail them back to me with a note that said, "We don't keep pictures of strangers in our home." Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from, so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. It started on a Saturday morning 6 months ago. I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when my phone rang. Eric Hayes. We'd been friends since college, though we'd drifted apart over the years. Different careers, different cities, different lives. But we still talked every few months, kept that connection alive. "Daniel, man, we need to talk," Eric said. His voice was tight, angry. "It's about Victoria." Victoria was his younger sister. I'd met her exactly 3 times. Once at Eric's wedding 7 years ago. Once at a barbecue at his place 5 years back. And once at a restaurant 2 years ago when she happened to be visiting him and joined us for dinner. That was it. 3 times. Maybe 10 hours total in the same room as this woman. "What about her?" I asked. "She's pregnant," Eric said, "and she says you're the father." The coffee mug slipped from my hand. It shattered on the tile floor. Brown liquid spread across the white surface like a stain I couldn't scrub away. "That's impossible," I said. "Eric, I've barely even talked to your sister. We've never—" "She says differently," Eric cut me off. "She says it happened after my barbecue. Says you two connected. Says it was a one-time thing, but now she's carrying your baby." My mind raced backward. That barbecue. 5 years ago. I remembered Victoria being there. She'd seemed nice enough. We'd talked for maybe 20 minutes about nothing important. Weather, traffic, some show on Netflix. Then I'd left. Went home. Never thought about her again. "Eric, nothing happened. I promise you, man. Nothing." Then why would she say it did? His voice got louder, sharper. Why would my sister lie about something like this? That was the question that would haunt me for months. Why would she lie? I tried to explain, tried to make him understand. But Eric had already made up his mind. His sister was pregnant and scared and alone. The father of her baby was a man she trusted, a man he'd introduced her to. In his eyes, I was the villain. I was the guy who got his sister pregnant and was now trying to run away from responsibility. He hung up on me. 2 hours later, my mother called. "Daniel Richard Crawford," she said. Full name, never a good sign. "Eric Hayes just called your father and me. He told us about Victoria, about the baby." "Mom, it's not true. I never touched that woman. I barely know her." "That's not what she's saying. She's lying." My mother went quiet. That silence stretched between us like a canyon. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was cold, distant, like I was already a stranger. "Are you calling that poor girl a liar? A young woman who's pregnant and terrified? You'd rather protect yourself than do the right thing." "The right thing?" I stood up, started pacing. "The right thing is telling the truth. I didn't sleep with her. This baby isn't mine." "Then prove it," she said. "How? She's saying something happened. I'm saying it didn't. I can't prove a negative." "You could take a paternity test." "She's not even showing yet. The baby won't be born for months. And even then, why should I have to prove my innocence? Since when do you believe strangers over your own son?" That was my mistake. Pushing back. Defending myself too hard. In my mother's mind, an innocent man wouldn't argue. An innocent man would welcome the chance to prove his innocence. But I was angry, hurt, offended that my own parents would believe this lie. "Your father and I raised you better than this," my mother said. "We taught you to take responsibility for your actions. I am taking responsibility by telling you the truth." "No," she said. "You're running away. You're abandoning a child that needs a father. Just like—" She stopped herself, but I knew what she was about to say. Just like her own father had abandoned her when she was young. That wound had never healed. Now she saw me through that lens, saw me as the man who'd left her mother to raise a baby alone. "Mom, please, just listen to me." "I've heard enough," she said, and hung up. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came 3 days later. My father drove to my house, walked up to my door. I thought maybe he was there to actually listen, to hear my side, to believe his son. I was wrong. "Pack up anything you left at our house," he said. He wouldn't even look at me, stared at the ground like I was too shameful to witness. "Your mother and I have made our decision. Until you step up and take care of that child, you're not our son anymore." "Dad, don't call me that." His voice cracked. "A son doesn't abandon his responsibilities. A son doesn't let a woman face pregnancy alone. You're not the boy we raised. You're not the man we thought you were." I felt something break inside my chest, something that couldn't be put back together. "I'm telling you the truth," I whispered. "Why won't you believe me?" He finally looked up, met my eyes, and what I saw there destroyed me. Disgust, disappointment, anger. But beneath all that, hurt. He genuinely believed I'd gotten this woman pregnant and was lying to everyone about it. In his mind, I was everything he'd taught me not to be. "Because Victoria has no reason to lie," he said. "And you have every reason to." He turned and walked away, got in his car, drove off, left me standing in my doorway feeling like an orphan at 48 years old. Over the next 2 months, I tried everything, called them, texted them, sent emails, even drove to their house. They wouldn't answer the door, wouldn't respond to messages. My mother blocked my number. My father returned my letters unopened. My sister Natalie was the only one who stayed in contact. She didn't believe Victoria either. But she was caught in the middle. Our parents had forbidden her from talking to me. Said if she chose my side, she'd lose them too. "They're convinced you're lying," Natalie told me over coffee one afternoon. "Mum cries every night. Dad won't even say your name. They feel like they failed as parents, like they raised a man who abandons his child." "But I didn't. I know." She squeezed my hand. "I believe you, Daniel. But they won't hear it. Not until that baby is born, and you can prove it." 7 months. I had to wait 7 months for Victoria Hayes to give birth so I could take a paternity test and prove my innocence. 7 months of being treated like a deadbeat father by my own parents. 7 months of watching my family fall apart over a lie. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I just had to survive until the baby came. Get the test, show everyone the truth. Then everything would go back to normal. I had no idea what Victoria had planned next. 3 months into the pregnancy, my boss, William Foster, called me into his office. His face was serious, the kind of serious that meant my world was about to tilt sideways again. "Daniel, I got a very disturbing call this morning," William said, "from a woman named Victoria Hayes. She says you're the father of her baby, and she says you've been harassing her, threatening her, trying to force her to lie about the paternity." My blood went cold. "That's not true. None of that is true." "She sounded very scared on the phone," William continued. "She's considering filing a restraining order. She wanted to warn me that you might become unstable at work." This couldn't be happening. Victoria wasn't just lying about the paternity. She was actively trying to destroy my life, my job, my reputation, everything. William, I've never threatened that woman. I've barely even spoken to her since this started. She's the one who— I need you to be very careful here, William cut me off. His tone was measured, careful. I'm not saying I believe her, but I'm also not saying I don't. This is a serious accusation. If there's any truth to it, there isn't. Then you should have no problem proving it when the time comes, he said. But until then, I need you to stay away from her. No contact, no phone calls, nothing. Understood? I understood. I understood that Victoria Hayes had just turned my employer against me, had planted seeds of doubt that would grow whether I liked it or not. That night, I sat in my living room in the dark, thought about my life, about how one lie had poisoned everything. My parents thought I was a deadbeat. My best friend thought I was a liar. Now my boss thought I might be dangerous. And there was nothing I could do but wait. Wait for a baby to be born so I could prove what I'd been saying all along. But when Victoria finally went into labor 4 months later, I learned that truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just makes people angrier. The DNA test came back with 99.9% certainty. I was not the father. Those numbers should have been my victory, my vindication, my proof that I'd been telling the truth all along. But when I forwarded the results to my parents, they didn't apologize. They didn't call crying and begging for forgiveness. Instead, my mother sent back a single text message. We need to talk about making this right. Making it right, like I was the one who owed them something. The baby was born on a Tuesday, a girl. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I only knew because Natalie texted me the details. Victoria had named her Emma. The name didn't matter to me. This child was a stranger, a person I had no connection to beyond being falsely accused of creating her. I waited 2 days, let Victoria recover from delivery. Then I had my attorney, Gregory Morrison, contact her attorney with a formal request for paternity testing. I'd hired Gregory the month before, when Victoria's harassment had escalated. He was expensive, professional, the kind of lawyer who didn't waste time on emotions. She's agreed to the test, Gregory told me over the phone. We'll have results in 72 hours. Those 3 days felt like 3 years. I barely slept, barely ate, just waited for the proof that would end this nightmare. When Gregory called with the results, I was sitting in my car outside a grocery store. Couldn't even remember why I'd driven there. Daniel, the results are conclusive, Gregory said. 0% probability of paternity. You are definitively not the father. I should have felt relief, joy, something positive. Instead, I just felt tired, exhausted down to my bones. Because I knew this wasn't over. The truth was out, but that didn't erase 8 months of hell, didn't give me back my parents, didn't restore my reputation. Send the results to everyone, I told Gregory. Eric Hayes, my parents, Victoria's attorney, everyone who needs to see them. Already done, he said. I sat in that parking lot for another hour, watching people walk in and out of the store with their groceries, their normal lives, their families who probably believed them when they told the truth. Then I drove home and waited for my parents to call. They didn't call that day, or the next day. On the 3rd day after the results came out, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a letter from my mother. The letter started with Dear Daniel, not Dear Son. That hurt more than anything she'd written afterward. The letter said they'd made a mistake, said they should have trusted me, said they understood I must be very angry and hurt. The $50,000 was to help compensate for the pain they'd caused. They wanted to meet for dinner, talk things through, start rebuilding our relationship. Nowhere in that letter were the words, "I'm sorry." Nowhere did she admit they'd been wrong. It read like a business transaction. Like they could just write a check and everything would go back to normal. I called Natalie. "Did you know about this?" I asked. "The money?" "Yeah. Mom and Dad have been talking about it all week. They think it's the right gesture." "A gesture," I repeated. "They disowned me, called me a liar and a deadbeat for 8 months, and now they think $50,000 makes it right." "They're trying, Daniel." "No," I said. "They're trying to buy their way out of feeling guilty. There's a difference." Natalie sighed. "What are you going to do?" "Keep the money," I said. "Consider it payment for 8 months of hell. But I'm not having dinner with them. I'm not pretending this is okay. They're our parents." "They were my parents," I corrected her, "right up until they chose to believe a stranger over their own son. Now they're just 2 people I used to know." I hung up, deposited the check, and ignored every call and message my parents sent after that. But they wouldn't let it go. A week after I deposited the check, my father showed up at my house again. This time he looked smaller, older, like the guilt was eating him from the inside out. "Daniel, please," he said when I opened the door. "Just give me 5 minutes." "You didn't give me 5 seconds," I said. "When I begged you to believe me, you turned your back and walked away. Now you want me to listen?" "I was wrong." His voice cracked. "We were wrong. We should have trusted you. Should have asked more questions. Should have acted like parents," I finished. "Should have known your son well enough to know he wouldn't lie about something like this." "Yes," he whispered. "All of that. And I'm sorry. Your mother and I are both so sorry." There it was, the apology. The words I'd needed to hear 8 months ago. But now they felt hollow, empty. Too little, too late. "I appreciate you saying that," I said. "But it doesn't change anything." "Don't do this," my father pleaded. "Don't throw away our family over one mistake." "One mistake?" I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp. "You didn't make one mistake, Dad. You made a choice. Every day for 8 months you chose to believe I was lying. Every time I called, you chose not to answer. Every letter I sent, you chose to send back unopened. Those weren't mistakes. Those were decisions. We thought we were doing the right thing." "No," I said. "You thought you were punishing me. Now you want me to forgive you because it turns out you were wrong. But if that DNA test had said I was the father, you'd still think you did the right thing. You're not sorry for doubting me. You're sorry for being wrong." My father's face crumbled. He looked like he might cry. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to tell him it was okay. But it wasn't okay, and pretending otherwise would be a betrayal of myself. "Please," he said one more time. "Go home, Dad," I said, and closed the door. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 days later, Eric Hayes called me. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, he wanted to talk. "Daniel, man, He couldn't seem to find words. "The DNA test. I saw the results. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have. Victoria told me you two had been together. She seemed so sure, so scared. I didn't think she'd lie about something like this." "Well, she did." "I know," Eric said, "and I'm trying to figure out why. I've been calling her, texting her. She won't tell me anything. Just keeps saying there must be a mistake with the test." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean, a mistake?" "She's telling people the DNA test was wrong, that maybe it was contaminated or you paid someone to alter the results. She won't admit she lied." This woman was unbelievable. Even with proof, even with science showing exactly who I was or wasn't, she was still trying to twist the narrative, still trying to make me the villain. "Eric, your sister needs help," I said. "Professional help, because this isn't normal behavior." "I know," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. Sorry I didn't believe you. If there's anything I can do, stay away from me," I said. "You and your whole family. I'm done with all of you." I hung up before he could respond. That night, I thought maybe things would finally settle down. The truth was out. People knew I was innocent. My parents had apologized in their own broken way. Eric had apologized. Maybe now I could just move on with my life. Then my phone rang at 11 o'clock. It was William Foster, my boss, calling me almost at midnight. "Daniel, I'm sorry to bother you so late," he said, "but I just got off the phone with Victoria Hayes. She called me at home, at my personal number." My stomach dropped. What did she want? "She's still claiming you're the father. Says the DNA test was faked. Says you have connections at the lab and you paid someone to alter the results." William paused. "She also says you've been threatening her again. Says you told her you'd ruin her life if she didn't back down." "That's insane. I haven't spoken to her at all. Not once since this started." "I believe you," William said. "The DNA test is pretty clear. But Daniel, this woman is becoming a problem. She's calling your workplace, making accusations. This could affect the company's reputation." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you should consider a restraining order or legal action, something to make this stop. Because if she keeps calling here, keeps making these claims, I'm going to have to take action on my end." The threat was clear. My boss believed me. But he had a business to protect. If Victoria kept harassing him, kept associating his company with this drama, he'd fire me just to make it go away. "I'll talk to my attorney," I said. "Do that," William said. "Soon." After he hung up, I sat in my kitchen in the dark, thought about Victoria Hayes, about why she was doing this, what she possibly had to gain by continuing this lie, even after being exposed. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was simple. "You think this is over? It's just beginning." I knew immediately it was Victoria, and I knew she meant every word. The truth hadn't set me free. It had just made the cage smaller. I forwarded Victoria's threatening text to Gregory Morrison at 6 in the morning. By 9, we'd filed for a restraining order. By noon, Victoria had responded with her own legal action. She was suing my parents for harassment and emotional distress, claiming they'd been calling her, threatening her, trying to force her to admit she'd lied. But here's what made my blood run cold. My parents hadn't contacted Victoria at all. They'd been too busy trying to reconcile with me, which meant Victoria was escalating this into something bigger, something darker. And I still didn't understand why. The lawsuit papers arrived at my parents' house on a Thursday afternoon. Natalie called me immediately. "Daniel, you need to see this," she said. She sounded scared. "Victoria is suing Mom and Dad for $200,000, says they've been stalking her, sending threatening letters, showing up at her apartment. That's impossible. They've been camped outside my house trying to apologize to me." "I know," Natalie said, "but she has evidence. She's submitted screenshots of text messages, photos of someone outside her building, a recording of a voicemail threatening her baby." My mind raced. It's fabricated. It has to be. Mum and Dad don't even have Victoria's number. The texts came from Dad's phone number. That stopped me. What? The screenshots show Dad's contact info, his actual number. And the voicemail? It's his voice. This was impossible, unless... "She faked it," I said, "or someone helped her fake it. You can spoof phone numbers. You can manipulate audio. This is all manufactured." "Maybe," Natalie said. "But Mom and Dad are terrified. They think they're going to lose everything." Part of me felt satisfaction at that. They'd been so quick to believe Victoria's lies about me. Now they were experiencing what I'd gone through, the helplessness of being falsely accused with manufactured evidence. But another part of me felt something different. Concern. Because if Victoria was willing to go this far, there was no telling what she'd do next. I called Gregory. "I saw the lawsuit," he said before I could speak. "Victoria Hayes is playing a dangerous game, but I think I know why. Tell me." I did some digging into her background. "Daniel, you're not the first man she's accused of being a father." The room tilted. "What?" 3 years ago, she claimed a man named James Peterson was the father of a baby she was carrying. He paid her $20,000 to go away before demanding a paternity test. 2 years before that, she accused someone else. That time she got $15,000. My hands were shaking. "She's done this before." "Multiple times," Gregory confirmed. "She finds men with money or connections, gets pregnant by someone else, then claims the target is the father. Most men pay her off rather than deal with the drama. She's been running this con for years. Why didn't those other men report her? Shame, embarrassment, fear that people wouldn't believe them even with proof. One of them did file a police report, but Victoria claimed it was revenge for her rejecting him. Nothing came of it. I felt sick. This woman had turned ruining men's lives into a business model, and I'd been her latest mark. "Why me?" I asked. "How did she even know about me?" "That's the interesting part," Gregory said. "I think she targeted you specifically because of your parents. Did some research, found out they're comfortable financially. She probably thought she could either get money from you or from them through grandparent guilt. When you refused to play along, she went after them directly with this lawsuit." Everything clicked into place. The persistence, the escalation, the manufactured evidence. Victoria wasn't just a liar. She was a predator, and my parents had been her secondary targets all along. "Can we stop her?" I asked. "We can do better than that," Gregory said. "We can make sure she never does this to anyone else." Over the next 2 weeks, Gregory built a case that would destroy Victoria's lawsuit and her entire operation. He tracked down the other men she'd scammed, got their statements, found the real father of baby Emma through Victoria's own social media posts, a married man she'd been having an affair with. Built a timeline that showed Victoria's pattern of targeting specific men based on their financial situations. But the real ammunition came from an unexpected source. Eric Hayes called me one night, his voice shaking. "Daniel, I found something," he said. "In Victoria's apartment. I went to confront her about the lawsuit against your parents. We got into an argument. She left the room and I looked through her laptop. Eric, she has a spreadsheet," he continued, "a detailed spreadsheet with names, financial information, notes about which men would be easiest to manipulate. Your name is on there. So are 5 others. She's been planning this, documenting everything. Did you make copies?" "I took photos of everything," Eric said. "I know it won't be admissible in court since I didn't have permission. But Daniel, you need to know what kind of person my sister is. She targeted you. She researched your parents. She knew exactly what she was doing from day one." I thought I'd feel angry hearing this. Instead, I just felt tired, validated, but tired. "Send the photos to my attorney," I said. "I will. And Daniel, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but," he paused, "I'm going to testify against her. If your lawyer needs me, I'm going to tell the court everything." That surprised me. "She's your sister. She's a criminal," Eric said, "and I helped her destroy your life because I believed her. I need to make that right. 3 weeks later, we were in court. Not for Victoria's lawsuit against my parents. That had been dismissed once the judge saw Gregory's evidence. But for a fraud case. Victoria Hayes was being charged with multiple counts of fraud, extortion, and filing false police reports. My parents sat in the back of the courtroom. I hadn't invited them, hadn't told them I'd be there. But they came anyway. Probably hoping this would be a moment we could share, a moment of vindication we could bond over. They were wrong. When the judge handed down the verdict, guilty on all counts, I walked out of the courthouse without looking at them, heard my mother call my name, kept walking. Outside, Natalie caught up to me. "You're not even going to acknowledge them?" she asked. "After everything? After they tried to protect themselves from Victoria's lawsuit using your lawyer?" "They didn't try to protect themselves," I corrected. "Gregory protected them because it helped our case. There's a difference. They're devastated, Daniel. Mom cries every day. Dad hasn't been the same since—" "Good," I said. It came out harsher than I intended, but I meant it. Maybe now they understand what I went through, what it feels like when the people who should love you unconditionally decide you're not worth believing. "How long are you going to punish them?" "I'm not punishing them," I said. "I'm protecting myself. They showed me exactly who they are when things got hard. Why would I give them another chance to do it again?" Natalie's eyes filled with tears. "So that's it? You're just going to walk away from your family forever?" "They walked away first," I reminded her. "I'm just choosing not to chase them." 6 months later, I heard through Natalie that my parents had started therapy, that they were trying to understand why they'd been so quick to believe Victoria, why they'd thrown away their relationship with their son over an accusation from a stranger. The therapist apparently told them they'd been groomed. That Victoria had used their own trauma, my mother's abandonment issues, my father's fear of raising a son who shirked responsibility, against them. That she'd played them like instruments. I suppose that should have made me feel sympathy for them, understanding, forgiveness. It didn't, because at the end of the day, trauma doesn't excuse choices. Pain doesn't justify betrayal. They still looked me in the eyes and called me a liar. They still chose a con artist over their own son. And no amount of therapy could erase that. The $50,000 they'd sent me, I donated half to a legal aid fund that helps men falsely accused of paternity. Kept the other half as payment for 8 months of hell, like I'd said I would. Victoria Hayes served 18 months in prison. Got out on good behavior. Last I heard, she'd moved to another state. Changed her name, probably finding new marks to run her con on. Eric Hayes sent me an apology letter every month for a year. I never responded. Eventually, they stopped coming. My parents sent cards on my birthday, on Christmas, always with the same message: "We love you. We're sorry. Please come home." I don't respond to those either. Because here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Some betrayals don't heal. Some relationships can't be repaired. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that staying away is healthier than forcing a reconciliation. I built a new life, made new friends who believe me when I speak, found people who choose trust over suspicion, who ask questions before making judgments. My parents lost a son over their choices. That's not my tragedy to carry. It's theirs, and I'm finally okay with that. Thanks for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments.